A Russian Tsar eliminated his own son and heir in a fit of uncontrolled rage. A French queen allegedly orchestrated a poison network through the royal court using astrologers and occultists. An English king systematically removed 2 of his wives through false accusations and may have caused the disappearance of his own nephews to steal the throne. And here's what will absolutely blow your mind. We're about to find out which royal family had the most twisted, horrifying secrets in all of European history. I'm talking about secrets so dark that Game of Thrones looks like a Disney movie. Political elimination, systematic cover-ups, family betrayals that would make your worst nightmare seem like a pleasant dream. And the crazy part, everything you're about to hear actually happened. These aren't legends or myths. These are documented historical facts with witness testimonies, court records, and written confessions. Today we're putting 3 of Europe's most powerful royal families head-to-head in the ultimate battle for the crown of shame. In the red corner, we have England, home to Henry VIII's systematic wife eliminations, the mysterious disappearance of 2 young princes, and a king who literally befriended Hitler. In the blue corner, France brings us Catherine de' Medici's alleged poison network, Louis XIV's web of lies about secret marriages, and Marie Antoinette's scandal that helped destroy the monarchy. And in the white corner, Russia delivers Ivan the Terrible's family elimination spree, Peter the Great's persecution of his own son, and a mad monk who basically controlled the entire royal family. But here's what makes this even more insane. These families weren't just committing random acts of political violence. They were systematically destroying anyone who threatened their power, including their own children, spouses, and siblings. We're talking about people who would eliminate their own family members without hesitation, cover up massive scandals that affected entire nations, and commit acts so calculated that even their own courts were horrified. Can you imagine being so power-hungry that you'd remove your own wife from the equation? Or so paranoid that you'd persecute your own son for suspected treason? Or so desperate to maintain control that you'd let a complete stranger manipulate your family into national disaster? If royal families competing for the title of most twisted dynasty fascinates you as much as it fascinates me, stick around because today you're going to discover secrets that will change how you see power forever. Please subscribe to the channel if you want more of these shocking historical face-offs. Because what I'm about to show you isn't just about individual eliminations or scandals, it's about how absolute power corrupts absolutely, and which royal family took that corruption to the most horrifying extreme. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which crown deserves the title of Europe's most twisted dynasty. And trust me, the winner might not be who you think. Because while England has the systematic approach, France has the psychological warfare, and Russia, well, Russia has something that will make your blood run cold. So buckle up, because we're about to dive into royal secrets so dark that they were hidden for centuries. Let's start with England. And honestly, Henry VIII alone could probably win this entire competition by himself. This man didn't just break the rules. He rewrote them entirely and left a trail of political chaos that lasted for generations. Here's what most people know. Henry had 6 wives and executed 2 of them. But what they don't teach you in school is the calculated, systematic way he eliminated anyone who dared question his authority. We're talking about a man who literally created his own religion just so he could get rid of his first wife, and then spent the rest of his reign removing anyone who disagreed with him. Anne Boleyn wasn't just executed because Henry got bored. She was framed for adultery and treason in a trial so rigged that even the judges knew it was fake. The evidence against her was completely fabricated, but Henry needed her gone to marry Jane Seymour. So he had his own wife eliminated and then moved on like nothing happened. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Catherine Howard, his 5th wife, was barely 20 years old when Henry decided she had to go. The poor girl probably never even understood what was happening to her before she found herself facing the same fate as Anne Boleyn. And if you think executing wives was bad, wait until you hear what he did to his closest advisors. Thomas More, the guy who's literally a saint now, refused to support Henry's divorce from Catherine of Aragon. So Henry had him eliminated for treason. Thomas Cromwell, who helped Henry with his religious reforms for years, made one political mistake, and Henry had him removed immediately. But here's what makes Henry truly terrifying from a political perspective. He didn't just eliminate people randomly. He systematically destroyed the Catholic Church's power in England, confiscated all their wealth and property, and redistributed it to nobles who supported him. We're talking about the largest transfer of wealth in English history, all orchestrated to maintain his personal power. The man literally split Christianity in England just to get what he wanted. Can you imagine having that much audacity? He created the Church of England, declared himself the head of it, and then used religious authority to justify every political move he made. And here's the part that should absolutely terrify you. Henry was actually incredibly intelligent and charismatic. People genuinely loved him, even while he was systematically removing anyone who crossed him. He managed to convince an entire nation that his personal desires were actually God's will. The political ramifications lasted for centuries. His daughter Mary tried to restore Catholicism and ended up eliminating hundreds of Protestants. Then Elizabeth had to deal with constant Catholic plots against her rule. Henry didn't just affect his own reign, he created religious and political chaos that lasted for generations. But if you thought Henry's family elimination policy was disturbing, just wait until you hear about the mystery that's never been solved. So remember that mystery I mentioned? Well, it involves two young princes who simply vanished from the Tower of London, and it's a royal cover-up that's never been solved even today. Picture this. King Edward IV passes away unexpectedly, leaving his 12-year-old son Edward to become king. But here's where it gets twisted. The boy's uncle, Richard III, declares that Edward's marriage to the boy's mother was invalid, making both princes illegitimate. Convenient, right? So Richard takes the crown for himself and promises to protect his nephews. The two boys, Edward and Richard, get moved to the Tower of London supposedly for their own safety. And then they just disappear. Forever. No one ever sees them again. Now Richard claimed they were being kept safe. But here's what's absolutely chilling. Multiple witnesses reported seeing the boys playing in the Tower Gardens. And then one day, they simply weren't there anymore. No official announcement, no explanation, no bodies found. Just two royal children who vanished into thin air. The political implications were massive because Richard couldn't rule legitimately while those boys were alive. As long as they existed, people would always question his right to the throne. And coincidentally, right after they disappeared, Richard's position became completely secure. But here's where England's royal secrets get even more disturbing. We're jumping forward about 400 years to a scandal so massive that it nearly destroyed the monarchy's reputation forever. Edward VIII, who was supposed to become king in 1936, didn't just abdicate to marry Wallis Simpson like everyone believes. What really happened is that the government discovered he had been sharing state secrets with Nazi Germany and had expressed support for Hitler's regime. The man who was supposed to lead Britain was literally sympathetic to the country's future enemy. Can you imagine the political disaster if this had become public knowledge? Britain would have faced a constitutional crisis unlike anything in their history. So the establishment created the perfect cover-up story. The romantic narrative about a king who gave up his crown for love. It sounds beautiful. But the reality is that Edward was quietly removed from power because he represented a national security threat. The evidence is absolutely damning when you look at it. Edward visited Hitler in 1937 after his abdication and was photographed giving Nazi salutes. There are documented conversations where he expressed hope that Britain would negotiate peace with Germany. The Duke of Windsor, as he became known, was essentially a Nazi sympathizer who almost became king. And here's what makes this cover-up so brilliant. It worked perfectly. For decades, people believed the romantic story, while the real truth stayed buried in classified government files. So let's score England's performance so far. Systematic elimination of political opponents, mysterious disappearance of child heirs, and a Nazi-sympathizing king. That's some seriously dark royal history. But if you thought that was disturbing, wait until you see what France's royal family was capable of. Now let's talk about France, and honestly, their entry into this competition is absolutely terrifying because it involves something way more sophisticated than anything we've seen so far. Systematic political manipulation through alleged chemical warfare. Meet Catherine de' Medici, the Italian-born Queen of France, who supposedly turned the French court into the most dangerous place in Europe. We're talking about a woman who allegedly operated what historians call a poison network that made the French nobility terrified to eat or drink anything at court functions. Here's what makes Catherine's alleged methods so chilling. She didn't just randomly target people. According to historical accounts and court testimonies, she supposedly used a team of astrologers, alchemists, and what people back then called perfumers to create substances that could eliminate political opponents without leaving obvious traces. The woman literally had a private laboratory in her apartments where she supposedly conducted experiments with her team of specialists. Imagine being so calculating that you turn chemistry into a political weapon. Contemporary accounts describe how courtiers would literally refuse to attend royal dinners because they were terrified of what might happen to them. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Catherine wasn't just allegedly using these methods for random political gains. She was supposedly protecting her son's claims to the throne by systematically removing anyone who threatened their succession. We're talking about a mother who would allegedly eliminate entire families to secure her children's future. The most famous case involves Jeanne d'Albret, the Queen of Navarre, who supposedly died mysteriously right before her son's wedding to Catherine's daughter. The timing was so convenient for Catherine's political goals that even contemporary observers suspected foul play. And if the alleged poisoning network wasn't disturbing enough, Catherine was also deeply involved in occult practices that absolutely scandalized the Catholic court. She employed astrologers and fortune tellers who supposedly influenced major political decisions. Can you imagine a queen making foreign policy decisions based on star charts and crystal ball readings? Guys, if you're loving this journey through Europe's most twisted royal secrets, please subscribe to the channel because what I'm about to tell you next is going to blow your mind. Because Catherine's alleged activities weren't just about individual eliminations. She supposedly created an entire culture of fear and paranoia that lasted for decades. Nobles would bring their own food to court events, hire food tasters, and constantly watch their backs because no one knew who might be next on Catherine's alleged target list. The political implications were massive because it meant that French foreign policy and domestic decisions were potentially being influenced by a woman who supposedly saw political opponents as chemistry experiments. We're talking about a level of calculated manipulation that makes modern political scandals look like amateur hour. But Catherine's alleged poison network was just the beginning of France's royal secrets. Because what her descendants did makes her look like a saint. So if you thought Catherine de' Medici was bad, wait until you meet Louis XIV, because this man turned deception into an art form that would make modern politicians jealous. Louis didn't just rule France. He literally called himself the Sun King and demanded that everything revolve around him. But here's what they don't teach you in history class. Behind all that golden palace glamour was a web of lies so complex that it took historians centuries to unravel the truth. First, let's talk about his secret marriage that rocked the foundation of European politics. After his first wife died, Louis secretly married Françoise d'Aubigné, known as Madame de Maintenon. But here's the crazy part. He kept this marriage completely hidden from the public and even most of his own court for years. Why would someone hide their own wedding? Because Madame de Maintenon was a commoner, and marrying her would have caused a massive political scandal. So Louis lived a double life, publicly acting like a single king while secretly being married to a woman who was influencing major political decisions behind the scenes. Can you imagine the level of deception required to pull this off? Every public appearance, every court ceremony, every diplomatic meeting was basically an elaborate performance to hide his real personal life. But the secret marriage was nothing compared to his illegitimate children situation. Louis had at least 14 acknowledged illegitimate children with various mistresses. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. He legitimized some of them and gave them titles, essentially creating a shadow royal family that threatened the traditional succession line. His illegitimate son, the Duke of Maine, was actually positioned to potentially inherit the throne if anything happened to Louis's legitimate heir. We're talking about completely rewriting the rules of royal succession through backroom political maneuvering. And here's what makes this even more twisted. Louis used his illegitimate children as political tools, marrying them off to secure alliances and manipulate noble families throughout Europe. These weren't just personal relationships. They were calculated political weapons disguised as family arrangements. But perhaps the most mysterious aspect of Louis's reign involves the famous man in the iron mask. Historical records show that Louis kept a mysterious prisoner locked away for decades, and this person was considered so dangerous that their identity had to be completely hidden. Some historians believe this prisoner was actually Louis's illegitimate twin brother, which would explain why the person's identity was such a state secret. Imagine discovering that the Sun King had been hiding his own twin brother in prison for political reasons. The level of paranoia and control required to maintain these secrets is absolutely mind-blowing. Louis had spies throughout his own court, secret police monitoring noble families, and an entire bureaucracy dedicated to managing information and controlling what people knew about royal family affairs. But if you think Louis's web of lies was disturbing, wait until you hear how his descendant Marie Antoinette's secrets literally helped destroy the French monarchy forever. And now we come to Marie Antoinette, whose royal secrets didn't just destroy her personally, they literally helped bring down the entire French monarchy and changed European history forever. Everyone knows the famous quote, "Let them eat cake." But here's what actually happened. Marie Antoinette became involved in the most expensive scandal in French history, and it created a public relations nightmare that the monarchy never recovered from. The diamond necklace affair of 1785 was basically the perfect storm of royal stupidity and political manipulation. An incredibly expensive diamond necklace worth about 1.6 million livres, which is roughly $100 million in today's money, became the center of a conspiracy that made Marie Antoinette look like she was bankrupting France for personal jewelry. Here's what makes this scandal so devastating. Marie Antoinette was completely innocent of the actual crime, but the public believed she was guilty, and that perception destroyed her reputation forever. A con artist named Jeanne de Valois convinced everyone that the Queen had secretly commissioned this ridiculously expensive necklace while French people were starving. The political implications were absolutely catastrophic because it confirmed every negative stereotype about Marie Antoinette being a frivolous, out-of-touch foreign queen who cared more about luxury than her subjects' welfare. French people genuinely believed their queen was spending massive amounts of money on jewelry while they couldn't afford bread. But here's where Marie Antoinette's secrets get even more politically dangerous. Throughout her entire reign, she was suspected of being an Austrian spy who was sharing French state secrets with her brother, Emperor Joseph II of Austria. These weren't just random accusations. Marie Antoinette was literally caught sending coded letters to Austria discussing French military plans and political strategies. She was essentially committing treason by sharing sensitive information with a foreign power during a time when France and Austria were political rivals. The evidence is actually pretty damning when you look at historical documents. Marie Antoinette consistently opposed French policies that would hurt Austrian interests, and she actively lobbied her husband to make decisions that benefited her birth country rather than France. Can you imagine being married to someone who was potentially working against your country's interests? King Louis XVI was basically married to someone who modern intelligence agencies would classify as a foreign agent. And here's what makes this even more tragic. Marie Antoinette's alleged spying activities weren't even successful. Austria didn't particularly benefit from her information, but the French public's perception of her as a traitor contributed directly to the revolutionary sentiment that eventually led to the monarchy's complete destruction. So let's score France's performance in our royal secrets competition. Systematic alleged poisoning networks, decades of lies about secret marriages and illegitimate children, and treason allegations that helped destroy an entire political system. France is definitely a strong contender for the worst royal family crown. But now it's time to see if Russia can top this level of twisted family dysfunction. And trust me, what the Russian royal family did to each other makes everything we've seen so far look almost normal. Okay, so we've seen England's systematic political eliminations and France's alleged poison networks, but Russia is about to take this competition to a completely different level of family dysfunction that will absolutely blow your mind. Meet Ivan IV, known as Ivan the Terrible, and honestly, that nickname doesn't even come close to describing how twisted this man actually was. We're talking about a Tsar who was so paranoid and rage-filled that he destroyed his own royal bloodline in a single moment of madness. Picture this. Ivan had spent decades building a powerful Russian empire, eliminating political opponents and securing his family's dynasty. But in 1581, during a heated political argument with his son and heir, Ivan Ivanovich, something inside the Tsar just snapped completely. The argument started over Ivan's military policies and his son's criticism of the ongoing war with Poland. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. Ivan became so enraged during this family disagreement that he caused the elimination of his own heir and successor, effectively ending the royal bloodline that he had spent his entire life building. Can you imagine being so consumed with anger that you would destroy your own child's future? This wasn't a calculated political move like we've seen with other royal families. This was pure, uncontrolled rage that eliminated everything Ivan had worked for. The political ramifications were absolutely catastrophic for Russia. Ivan had just removed the only legitimate heir who was capable of ruling, which meant the entire succession plan was completely destroyed. His remaining son, Fyodor, was mentally disabled and completely unfit to rule an empire. What makes this even more tragic is that Ivan immediately realized what he had done. Historical accounts describe him in complete anguish over his actions, but it was obviously too late. The man had just single-handedly destroyed his own dynasty in a moment of uncontrolled fury. The long-term consequences were devastating for Russian political stability. When Ivan passed away 2 years later, Fyodor became Tsar, but couldn't actually govern, which led to a period called the Time of Troubles, where Russia faced massive political chaos, foreign invasions, and near-complete governmental collapse. But here's what makes Ivan's actions so uniquely terrible compared to the political calculations we've seen from England and France. This wasn't strategic. Henry VIII eliminated people to secure his power. Catherine de' Medici allegedly eliminated people to protect her children's succession. But Ivan eliminated his own heir in a fit of rage, destroying everything he had built. The psychological impact on Ivan himself was apparently devastating. Contemporary accounts describe him as completely broken after this incident, spending his remaining years in a state of mental anguish and religious obsession. We're talking about a level of self-destructive family violence that goes beyond anything we've seen so far in this competition. Ivan didn't just hurt his political opponents, He literally destroyed his own family's future in a single moment of madness. But if you thought Ivan's rage-induced family destruction was the worst thing Russian royalty could do, just wait until you meet Peter the Great. So you think Ivan the Terrible's rage-induced family elimination was bad? Well, Peter the Great took royal family dysfunction to an entirely new level by systematically and deliberately destroying his own son over a period of months. This wasn't a moment of madness like Ivan. This was calculated, methodical, and absolutely chilling in its political ruthlessness. Peter the Great literally made his own son's elimination into a state-sponsored investigation that lasted for nearly a year. Here's what happened. Peter's son Alexei represented everything Peter hated about old Russia. While Peter was trying to modernize the country and build relationships with Western Europe, Alexei supported traditional Russian values and opposed his father's reforms. Essentially, Peter saw his own heir as a political threat to everything he was trying to achieve. But instead of just removing Alexei from the succession line, Peter decided to completely destroy him through a legal process that was basically designed to justify elimination. Peter accused his son of treason and conspiracy, then subjected him to extensive questioning and legal pressure to extract a confession. The political implications were staggering because Peter was essentially arguing that his own son was an enemy of the state. Can you imagine creating a legal case against your own child and then using state power to eliminate them? What makes this even more twisted is that Peter documented everything. There are official court records, witness testimonies, and detailed accounts of the entire process. Peter wasn't hiding this. He was creating a legal justification for removing his own heir. The systematic nature of Alexei's persecution included forcing him to confess to crimes he probably didn't commit, implicating other nobles in supposed conspiracy plots, and essentially using his own son as a weapon against political opponents throughout the Russian court. But here's what's absolutely chilling about Peter's psychology. Contemporary accounts suggest he genuinely believed he was doing the right thing for Russia. In his mind, eliminating his own son was a patriotic act that would protect the country from returning to backward traditions. The succession crisis this created was massive because Peter had just eliminated his male heir and had to completely restructure royal inheritance laws. He ended up changing Russian law to allow emperors to choose their own successors rather than following traditional bloodline succession. Peter's actions created a precedent for royal paranoia that lasted for centuries in Russian politics. Future Russian rulers became obsessed with eliminating potential threats within their own families, leading to a dynasty where family members constantly feared each other. The psychological impact on Peter himself seems to have been significant. Historical accounts describe him as increasingly paranoid and suspicious of everyone around him after Alexei's fate was sealed, suggesting that even he understood the moral boundary he had crossed. We're talking about a level of calculated family elimination that makes Ivan's rage-induced violence look almost understandable by comparison. Peter systematically destroyed his own son using state legal processes and official documentation. But Russia's royal family dysfunction reaches its absolute peak with a scandal so bizarre that it sounds like fiction but actually happened. And now we reach the absolute peak of Russian royal dysfunction with a scandal so bizarre and politically devastating that it literally helped bring down a 1,000-year dynasty. I'm talking about how a mysterious peasant gained complete control over the most powerful family in Russia through one devastating royal secret. Meet Grigory Rasputin, a self-proclaimed holy man who somehow became the most influential person in the Russian Empire, and the Romanov family's desperate attempt to hide their son's medical condition that made this manipulation possible. Here's the setup that created this disaster. Tsar Nicholas II and his wife Alexandra had 4 daughters, but they desperately needed a male heir to continue the dynasty. When their son Alexei was finally born, everything seemed perfect, until they discovered he had hemophilia, a condition where blood doesn't clot properly. Now, Here's where this becomes a state secret of massive proportions. In early 1900s Russia, any sign of weakness in the royal family could trigger political revolution. So Nicholas and Alexandra decided to completely hide Alexei's condition from the Russian public and most of the government. But maintaining this cover-up required constant medical management, and that's where Rasputin comes in. This peasant mystic somehow had the ability to help manage Alexei's medical episodes, which made him absolutely indispensable to the royal family. Can you imagine being the rulers of the largest country in the world, but having to depend on a random peasant because your son's health condition is a state secret? Alexandra became so dependent on Rasputin that she wouldn't make any major decisions without consulting him first. Here's where it gets absolutely insane from a political perspective. Rasputin started influencing Russian foreign policy, military decisions, and government appointments through his control over Alexandra. We're talking about a complete outsider essentially running the Russian Empire through psychological manipulation. The political implications were catastrophic because Russian nobles, military leaders, and government officials could see that their country was being influenced by this mysterious peasant, but they couldn't understand why the royal family was allowing it to happen. Meanwhile, Alexandra was writing letters to Nicholas during World War I, telling him to follow Rasputin's advice on military strategy and government policy. The Empress of Russia was literally taking political direction from a peasant and passing it on to the Tsar. The secrecy around Alexei's condition meant that nobody in the government understood why Rasputin had so much influence, which created massive conspiracy theories and political instability. Russian officials genuinely thought their royal family had lost their minds. And here's the most devastating part. This medical cover-up and the resulting political manipulation contributed directly to the Russian Revolution. The people lost faith in their royal family because they appeared to be completely under the control of a random mystic. So let's score Russia's final performance. Rage-induced elimination of the royal heir, systematic legal persecution and elimination of the successor, and allowing a peasant to control government policy through medical blackmail. Russia has definitely put up some serious competition for the crown of Europe's most twisted royal family. But now it's time for the final verdict. Which dynasty actually deserves the title of having the worst secrets in European royal history? All right, we've seen systematic political eliminations, alleged poison networks, family rage murders, calculated son persecution, and government manipulation through medical blackmail. Now it's time for the final verdict. Which royal family actually deserves the crown of having the worst secrets in European history? Let's break down the scoring. England brought us Henry VIII's systematic elimination of wives and political opponents, the mysterious disappearance of 2 young princes, and a Nazi-sympathizing future king. That's definitely some dark royal history, but most of it was calculated political strategy designed to maintain power. France delivered Catherine de' Medici's alleged poison network, Louis XIV's web of lies about secret marriages and shadow royal families, and Marie Antoinette's treason allegations that helped destroy an entire monarchy. The sophistication and long-term political impact is absolutely staggering. But Russia? Russia gave us Ivan the Terrible destroying his own royal bloodline in a fit of rage, Peter the Great systematically persecuting and eliminating his own son through legal processes, and the Romanov family allowing a peasant mystic to control their government through medical blackmail. And the winner is Russia. Hands down, no competition. Here's why Russia takes the crown of shame. While England and France committed calculated political crimes, Russia specialized in complete self-destruction. Ivan eliminated his own heir in a moment of madness. Peter methodically destroyed his son over months of legal persecution. The Romanovs let a random peasant control their empire. What makes Russian royal secrets uniquely terrible is the self-destructive nature. Henry eliminated political opponents to secure power. That's evil, but logical. Catherine allegedly eliminated rivals to protect her children. That's twisted but understandable from a political perspective. But Russian royalty consistently destroyed their own families and dynasties through paranoia, rage, and incredibly poor judgment. They didn't just hurt their enemies, they systematically eliminated their own successors and handed control to complete outsiders. The long-term political consequences prove this point. England survived Henry's chaos and eventually became a constitutional monarchy. France eventually recovered from royal scandals and built a modern republic. But Russia, the Romanov dynasty's dysfunction contributed directly to one of the most violent revolutions in human history. And here's what should absolutely terrify you about these royal secrets. They show exactly what happens when people have unlimited power without accountability. Every single case we've discussed happened because these families believed they were above normal human moral boundaries. The lesson for modern times is crystal clear. Power without oversight inevitably leads to corruption, paranoia, and ultimately self-destruction. Whether we're talking about political leaders, business executives, or anyone with significant authority, absolute power really does corrupt absolutely. So which of these royal family secrets shocked you the most? Was it Henry's systematic wife eliminations, Catherine's alleged poison network, or Russia's complete family self-destruction? Comment below because I read every single one. And if you want more historical face-offs between powerful dynasties, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. Because next week, I'm bringing you something that will make these royal families look like saints. We're diving into the most twisted emperor dynasties from ancient Rome. And trust me, what they did to each other makes everything we've seen today look like a family disagreement.